Hey there, this is bigSHow, theGod. I'm in a really good space, so I thought I would just do an ad hoc kind of capture of myself, and just take it for what it is. So I've just finished a workout, and that was difficult to do. I didn't want to do it. I was going to take the day off, but I did it anyway. And that normally, that motion, that getting me moving, has such a good effect on me. Even though my energy levels is as good as yesterday, it's got that little extra flavour to it. So just thought I'd capture that, and in doing that, I stumbled upon some stuff I wrote, and it was practically 6 months ago, at least. About 6 months ago. A 6 month ago review. And I've itemized in here kind of my pillars and how much progress I've been making. And I wrote down the changes I made and what I identified, and how my emotions balances was maintained, how a lot of difficult conversations for me I was having at that time, and identifying that, having self-awareness that I was going through that, and how positive the outcomes were coming from them. So I thought, well, I'd read that, and yet here I am. I could almost, so on the fly, I realised I just did this recently, I could almost do the same again. Yet, the way I look at things, from a constant self-improvement, so we put that down. Let's do this. Let's go and write that down, right? So this podcast is a review. The great thing about capturing a review 6 months ago, 6 months ago, and I'm just capturing that bit. So it's something I'm reading, stated, it's captured, and it's how I've written it. Without that review from 6 months ago, I haven't got any data or referencing. So I'm reviewing something that I honestly put down 6 months ago. So I'm reading it, and it's me reviewing a previous month, 6 months or time. Doesn't really matter. So here I am. I like constant self-improvement. So me now, I can review the review without, what is it? I can now look at the review I did a week ago, a month ago, and I can compare it to 6 months ago. And without even me realizing it, it's got the same improvements from there. Increase my awareness of not holding on to events using tools. Okay? So there was something I identified, and something I've been practicing and working on. And so here I am now, part of the constant. If I'm here 6 months ago, previously, in my assessment, I was here. So I progressed. So they brought that down to here. Now I've done it again. And even to the word, some of the stuff here is noticing habits, noticing my feelings, noticing my anything that I might be avoiding, taking on new challenges, how I deal with being when I was frustrated. So all those what I would call significant or positive reinforcement for what I'm doing every day. And so that's what I keep sort of talking to myself. And so when I make these statements, I always think there's evidence is required. If you're into constant self-improvement, then you need some evidence. You know, what's your evidence? So what's my evidence to my future self? So I like that state of future self. Evidence for so what's sufficient really? Is this sufficient? Is this enough evidence for me? I guess all I can say on that is it's at this point it's as honest and as authentic as it can be for now. Okay, so these are hard to do too. So honest, authentic. So these are kind of like we're starting to say, for the evidence, it's kind of values based. Well, actually, this is values-based data, to be honest. So the values. So you got to keep being honest and authentic with your data capturing. So these reviews I do, I have to be as clear and honest and uncomfortable and difficult and straight as I can be in order to progress. If that makes sense. So that's the part. That's the part. The stuff that's really difficult for me. Those are the parts. So the difficult. Let's just use them as difficult tasks. What are they? The most rewarding. How's that? I guess that's more of a saying for while I'm talking to myself, clarifying with myself. So yeah, That was something I come across which was thought quite enlightening, yet it's not surprising. If you are self-improving consistently, then you should experience this sort of stuff, I would have thought. From a body transformation or anything like that. It's kind of one of those things that if you lose some weight and you're really happy about it, you review it and you get the number, you've lost X amount. It's 3 months later. 3 months later from that. Now, have I set a new goal? Or have I stayed the same and I've moved to a different goal? Have I gained the weight back? Which one is it? So you can say, well, no, I'm the same weight 3 months, 6 months later. I'd argue that depending on what you want it to be, was successful. Because weight loss isn't forever. It's kind of like, but if you still think you're 20 kilos overweight and you're the same weight 6 months later or 5 months later, 3 months later, probably a problem there. That's the bit that gets hard, to be honest about that. Yet you could say it was an achievement to maintain the weight if you were 10 to 15 kilos heavier at some point. But I'd argue the problem still remains. So there's more to do, probably. And then we can adapt that to everything else. I guess you can look at your finances and go, well, I saved X amount of money, or I paid off this debt, or I've earned this much, and now I'm earning this much. 3 months later, 6 months later, what is happening? And that's where my head is. That's where my mindset is, and that's what constant reviewing's doing. And it's almost self-motivating and self-driving, because that's how I know when, as I mentioned earlier, that doing that workout today has more significance. It just does. It's more significant, the workouts that I wasn't going to do, that I did. It's more significant the phone call or the meeting I had that I wasn't going to have. The project I cleaned up or folder I done, or the task I did that I wasn't going to do, or that I was going to put off, or that I was going to push somewhere else, that I've done in spite of that. It's so rewarding. But it's having the self-awareness to be aware of that, to not just go, well, I planned to do it and I did it. Which is fair, and which is where I can get to. I've got a reasonable threshold of routine, that of almost taking it for granted. My wife used to say this a lot, that I was taking her for granted. It's because she was doing the tasks. So the value of the task isn't there. Whereas now I notice with the tasks, we validate the task. Well, I validate the task to her. And so she gets the dopamine hit from that acknowledgement for it. She knows how to do the task. She's done the task several times. Well, for years, the task has been done. Right? But that acknowledgement seems to matter. And here I am doing it here. It seemed you could have talked to me 10 years ago, and I wouldn't have seen any value in this. I wouldn't have seen enough value to write it down and to say that I'd read it in the future to see any value in that. Because the rationale would have been the effort it takes to write it down. Or I've already thought it. Thinking it, then capturing it is different to just thinking it. My God, it's different. There won't be any... I'd be surprised if we find any consistent, successful person that isn't writing it down. And let's say we do find some, and I'm sure there will be. So I'll asterisk that statement, and I'd argue that if they use these tools of writing it down, and that they would be more, if not more successful, more enlightened, more aware, more... I mean, it's easy to say because one, either you have it or you didn't do it. But there's overwhelming evidence for it. So, yeah, I'm not convinced. If I didn't write any of this stuff down, because I knew there was a long period of time where I wasn't, that if I still wasn't writing it down, but I wasn't doing the same habits, let's say I'd been changing and doing stuff, would I be at the level I'm at right now? And I can be biased by looking at that going, well, no, I don't think I would be, emphatically. Yet, I haven't got a mirror of me sitting here that hasn't done it. Or has stayed on the path. I think common sense is fair to establish that if I'd stayed on the same path, there's no way I'd be where I'm at today. It's just not logical. And so having that is quite cool too, because then you go, well, what else is successful people doing, and what other mindsets and critical thinking and what other tools are successful people using? And cherry pick some more. Add another piece in, right? That's brilliant when you can do that. Add another piece into the mix, and that's what I'm hungry for. And the reality is, I already know what bits to add and to practice and to do. It's just fucking hard. It's difficult. I'm like every other human. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do the stuff that needs to be done. I don't want to pay the price. Some of the stuff I hear, that's the price of admission, and I don't seem to want to pay the price. Clearly, I've paid what I've paid to hear. I've paid for what I've got. And for some reason, I don't want to pay more. Or if I'm going to pay more, I'm gradually paying. I'm on a payment plan versus maybe some people will go all in and borrow the lot, because I'm more a pay as I go guy. There's definitely more I can do in every area I talk about. Every area I talk about, there's more I can do, and I know that. Yet I'm not paying the price, right? I'm not doing it. That's a fact. I'm not doing it. And It's just a decision that do I want to pay the price every single day of doing those things. And so, but it is a now and in the moment stuff as well, which I'm not convinced. If I'd done 20 more minutes of something at the gym, as an example, and had achieved another 30 minutes of something, or 40 minutes of something, and be sitting here now, would I feel better than I do now? Or would I feel the same? Right? Because there's another 40 minutes now. Now then that 40 minutes, I spend that 40 minutes in another. So forget this podcast. If I go, well, now I'm going to spend, I've got half a dozen projects here. I'm going to stay and spend another hour on those projects above what I was already marking off. You know, I'm getting fatigued, I'm getting things, but now I'm going to push through and I want to get a few other bits done. And some cool things happen out of that. I do that, and then when that's done, I come out of that and I go into whatever the next phase of thing, another meeting I go into, and I prepare and plan, but I spend an extra 15 minutes preparing and planning for that, instead of 5 minutes planning on it, or 15 minutes planning. And then while I'm in that meeting, I listen intently and take notes and pull it in, and I spend longer on that and build it up. Which is what I'm talking about as the price of admission. That's a formula for 6. That's one of the formulas. That's a reasonable that's reasonable that you would get more or have more out of that. But then there's a balancing act going on there too, isn't there? Now where's that when you theorize it rather than just do it? You're going to step back when you're doing it and you're going to think, so, you know, I don't think it's a straight line. I think I'm biased, but I think the bias of the system that I'm working on works for me. And I think with these tools and processes and this openness, this gradual growth versus a lump sum seems to be a more enjoyable journey, if I'm honest. But then that's me being biased again, right? Who said you have to enjoy it? Being uncomfortable. So you're uncomfortable, you might enjoy that too. So yeah. So maybe I'm not paying the price. And that may be something to ponder on. And let's go. Pay the price for progress. And put that in there. Why don't we say paying? I like that. It's kind of just another thing to ponder on. When I'm actioning something. I will say this, I do know for example, my feet and legs are tired as hell. right now. I ran this morning, and they were tired, and so I'm not making that up. So I'm not obsessed and okay just to keep doing it through it, right? And so I did other parts. I did lifting and stuff, and I felt equally drained doing those, but I pushed myself through that and got it done. So, you know, I do think listening is important. I'm just challenging myself, knowing that I'm capable of undermining myself all the time. Which is great, because this is what I get to. Because there's another way of looking at the reviews. If the review last time was successfully did this, did that, you know, if I'm giving self-reviews that are rave reviews, that man, I noticed in that meeting you did this, and self-awareness this, and self-awareness that, rah, and you got over that issue there, and you're able to push through and continue on. The other piece of evidence, okay, the future self is me sitting here going, you know, how great I feel and thing, which is there all the time. I felt great and had high energy levels then. I've got great and high energy levels now. My logic to that is that's a great base for growth. That's what I think. I think that's great. The point I'm doing here is, am I pushing myself? There's more I can do. And that's what these statements are trying to highlight. It's one thing for me to put down reviews and going, yeah, I've increased my pillar. And even when I do the pillar review, for me to go from here and to mark it up, there was some evidence of that. Continue on, yeah, consistent, or it stays the same, or it's higher. If I've seen a habit come in, or a not doing what I was doing last month, which is my radar, then I'll mark down to alert me, to take away my bias, to just not be complacent at this level. The questions are, is paying some more the price to go up to the next one? Because the evidence should be reflective everywhere. The relationships I have, the interaction I have with others and friends and other people, the health and well-being of myself, and even the feedback from other people of my health and well-being, the finances, my wealth, and should be different to what it was. All of them should be different. The relationships I have with people should be different. You know, it's not a straight line. I'm not saying a straight line. If I go and invest in something, then it looks like it's down, but it's building up, whatever. It's part of the plan. I'm doing what my plans, my goals, my visions, all those things, I'm taking those steps. Won't be a straight line, but it should still be overall written down. When an issue arises, when I find I'm frustrated, then that should be on the lists of, that means I'm practicing something. That means I'm doing something more difficult than what it was before, which is great. You know, if I jump on if I do some boxing drills that I might not have done for 6 months, my heart rate's probably gonna be different. It's just muscle memory may help, but it's still gonna be difficult. So, am I doing it? So yeah, I like those statements there. And these are like, these are the benefits of listening to the big tool I got is listening to podcasts of smart people and hearing how they frame things and how they give examples, some real life, some borrowed, but what statements mean to them and how they adapt them and adopt them into themselves for whatever their narrative of life is. So yeah, I think that's enough of recording that. It's a real-time kind of capture or something like that, looking over a review of myself from 6 months ago, and self-awareness. So what have I been self-aware of here? Probably that, but that, and here's one that I think wanting to be liked. Holds me back. And I make that statement loosely, because it's easier to say, I don't care what people think. Okay then. If that statement is very, very difficult to do or to prove. I don't care what people think. Okay? You make that statement. Wanting to be liked holds me back. I make that statement. You go, well, no, I don't care what people think. I don't want to be liked. I don't care. All right. If that's true, there'd be something I could ask you to do that you will not do, based on nothing more than what other people will think of you. You will not say thank you for something. I say, don't say thank you ever again. Because why did you say thank you? Oh, because it's manners and things. Oh, I thought you didn't care. I thought you didn't care what people think. So human interaction is entrenched in the psyche and the thing of being social animals. So putting an absolute statement like, I don't care what other people think, it's just not true. It's not true. If you don't care what people think, then okay then, walk down the road with no clothes on right now then. Go do it. And then maybe you're good enough at doing that. Well, I think then, okay, do not tell anybody that you love them. Don't say it. Do not thank anybody for anything. You don't care, right? Then don't do any of those things if you don't care about what they think, or you don't want to be wanting to be liked is part of that equation, whether you like it or not. I have no evidence of anybody that is subconsciously doing something just to be liked, just to be, you know, it may be being framed slightly I don't care what other people think, what we do. It may be subject matter based. Okay. So there was a little, we can go extreme on everything, but if we go, well, let's just stay relative to the examples that people will give, and then that's fair enough. It is part of. I don't want to speak out because I'm insecure and I'm afraid and I've got some fear, but we need you to, because you got the fucking skills, or your opinion, your comment on the subject matters because maybe you got some skill on it. I'm not really interested in something that you've got no fucking idea of. Your opinion, I really don't. But at some point, if you've got enough knowledge on it, at some point you share it. It still might be a more balanced opinion than I've got. So, I think your views can matter. So that sounds good.